Who was your first encounter with a master when you knew this was somebody different from normal people?
Wow, that's I really would have to search the data banks just because I would not want to leave anybody out.
Just the first one, but it could be not the most important, just the first one.
Right. Well, I guess the memory that sticks out for me in terms of somebody more than just as an observer, like as a kid going to a concert, was Sir Andrew Davis, who conducted the Canadian premiere of Mahler's Eighth Symphony. And I was 12 years old at the time, and I was I was in the children's chorus of that, which was for the opening of Roy Thomson Hall in Toronto. And I remember just, that was an overwhelming experience. You know, as it turns out, it's kind of funny how life works. I mean, I grew up in Toronto. I was a student at St. Michael's. I was studying at that time already piano, violin, and organ. And I loved to sing. It was the opening of Roy Thomson Hall. They had the Toronto Mendelssohn Choir, and they flew out members of the Vancouver Bach Choir to that performance. Now, as a kid, I had no awareness of that. But you know, there we were up in the choir loft of this brand new building, which was a big deal in Toronto. Massey Hall had been the home of the Toronto Symphony for years, and then suddenly there was Roy Thomson Hall, and it was really for the opening. So we were all, as kids, I remember being super, super excited. But I just remember at one point, Mahler is also such a magnificent and huge piece, right? How can it not be life-changing? But I remember having this moment of stillness in a part where we weren't singing. And I remember just scanning the entire, the house, everybody on stage, and I thought, I guess if I could be one person down the road, I think I would pick that person. And that was, Sir Andrew.
I wanted to really ask you about your first encounter conducting ballet. What was it? How was it? Was it different? How did you approach it?
So if we're talking strictly ballet, it probably...
Or dance.
Or dance, okay. Then I have two sort of separate experiences. My first time working with dance was more contemporary work. And it was part of a project which was a contemporary opera by Christopher Butterfield, who lives in Victoria, a piece called Zurich 1916, which was produced at the Banff Centre. And it was very much both, it took its inspiration from the fact that the Dadaist movement came about in 1916, and the whole, Lenin and Trotsky and the Soviet Revolution that was coming up, the Russian Revolution. And it was quite this really kind of bizarre and very Dada-like libretto, which had a huge dance component to it. So that summer, I was not the main conductor on this, I was the assistant, but I took a lot of rehearsals, and it was my first jumping into working with Bill Coleman and Laurence Lemieux, who are based in Toronto. And I remember the team that they had assembled as well. For me, it was a kind of an opening of a whole new world, much like when I got into opera. It was like a whole, I felt like Dorothy, you open the door and like, oh my God, it's all Technicolor. Dance was that for me because I had very little experience with that, and I just loved the dancers. I loved
Especially here where so few companies use the orchestra.
Right. So this was a great collaboration. I found that they had such great personalities. They worked so hard. They were so committed, and they were really fun. And so we were all working on this brand new project. So we were all kind of, I guess, equals that way. Nobody had had lots of experience with this particular piece, and we were all finding our way. So I just remember a really great summer, making very lasting friendships, and having this very exploratory kind of work where the work, you can't even call it a traditional opera, and it was certainly not a traditional ballet by any means, but it was really an amalgamation of contemporary styles in both singing and music and dance.
And did you find that working with the dancers was different from working with the singers?
Basically, I mean, working with dancers and singers is different, but at heart, the process is always the same. It's the
process always.
Process is absolutely what it is, and what that particular art form is, whether you're working with instrumentalists or singers or dancers, I always like to think we respect the score, that the score has to always come first, and then you find a way to make all of the magic happen. And
now, do you actually watch the dancers? Do you have to physically watch them because they're not making any noise?
Oh, sure. I mean, when you're in the
Like
heat of it,
the instruments you can hear. A guy's out of tune, boom.
Sure. I mean, with dance, it's like with singers, you have to be so aware of their breath. You have to breathe with them. You have to, help be able to negotiate and navigate the way through a phrase. Whether that's one solo singer, an ensemble, or an entire chorus singing with everybody. It's really about knowing what they need to do and how to best serve that. With dance, it's the physical body. And so again, it still comes back to the score. And what I really love is working with people who know the score and respect the score. Very funny.
Were there any particularly memorable moments, either funny, good, or bad, that have happened while conducting for dance?
For dance. Good question. Well, I'll tell you, one of my biggest learning experiences in dance was when I had the opportunity to conduct West Side Story for Vancouver Opera, which was produced in 2011. And again, if ever there was a piece that, is, again, an amalgamation of several art forms, and what a great piece. And we had a magnificent choreographer, Tracy Fly, who was recreating the Jerome Robbins, the original. And I have to tell you that, especially after that experience for me, I just thought, wow, like, hats off to dancers who I feel work so hard all the time. I mean, as musicians, we were like, oh, I've been working for 2 hours, I really need to have a break, or I need this. And dancers, we would be doing America, or these fast numbers, the Sharks Jet, like duel, and these people, within 2 minutes are sweating buckets, and I'm thinking, wow, like and then we finish, take some notes, and they're like, okay, they get the notes, let's go again, and they're like, yeah, and then just pump it up and go again, and I'm like, oh my, like, this is incredible. I mean,
his daughter is a dancer.
I have the utmost of respect for dancers who really, I mean, they punish themselves to the nth degree, and then just, when you think that they can't do any more, they just raise the game even more, and it's like there seems to be no end to what they do. So I remember thinking, I was very humbled working in that experience as well. Usually in opera, you get 3 weeks of rehearsal in the rehearsal hall, then you have a week of tech, and you put on things. We had an extra week, so we were 4 weeks in there, and just to take the time to really put this all together. And I remember thinking, wow, like, I never have reason to complain or feel, like I'm tired, because these guys are just working it. So that's something that really actually sticks out for me, the process of West Side. And then when we actually opened the show, there were a couple of people who got injured or sick, and our swing went on in the orchestra dress rehearsal, the public dress, and opening night in 2 different roles. And I was just like, oh my God, like, this is incredible. How, again, not only, everything that I've just described to you, what you have to do, but then to be able to do other people's parts and without rehearsal, and do it seamlessly so that nobody in the audience had any idea. So, it's, for me, dance is the thing I came to maybe the latest of all of the things. But I just love doing it. The repertoire is so incredible.
You do it
the storytelling.
Better than anybody else in Vancouver that I've seen, because I'm very aware of that from the dancer's point of view.
It's kind of you to say. I feel like it's a real gift, and it's always very much a learning experience for me. So I really treasure the opportunity to do that.
And a good conductor lifts up the dancers. Well, you can take them to a higher level, or you can destroy their performance. You have like all the power. And that's why it's so important.
I mean, I've never ever thought of that by the way. All music making and all of is collaborative, right?
Could you imagine?
So there's a responsibility for sure. And I sometimes feel like, I have to admit too that I didn't go through playing dance classes as many people have. So the lexicon of all of the the physicality, I don't know as well as some, but there is such an instinctive side of it, and I think I tap into that. And I know that when I've collaborated too with all of our guest artists for Nutcracker, I'm always very keen to say, look, let me know if there's something I can do, because I want to help. I want this to be the best, and so I think when one is open to, you find that you can have a very fruitful relationship. And it's very respectful.
Just hearing that from a conductor is sometimes so refreshing.
Well,
I've seen some that just plow ahead and they're going to do it their way, and the poor dancers are just dying.
I think that's most unfortunate.
Thank you.